Well, zip it up, fam. Welcome back. Thank you for joining another week. And man, I'm excited to record this episode tonight. Got a lot to share. If you have been following along on our social media, you know that an insane weekend just went down for me and my family. Um, I've been I've been ready to share the stories from the 2026 Daytona 500 weekend. It was incredible. And so that's how I'm going to lead off this episode here in just a moment. But after I talk about our weekend, then I will get into, the actual racing that went on in Daytona. So we'll do a Daytona 500 recap. We'll take a look at how each of our drivers did. We'll go over the point standings after just one race, and then we'll look ahead to Atlanta coming up this weekend, and we'll do a brief Atlanta preview. So hang with us, hang tight, but let's go ahead and begin with our drink for this episode, which I'm going to keep it rather simple tonight. I'm going with just a Coke Zero. I know, not fun, but it's Wednesday, and I am not in a celebratory mood. Obviously, after the way things ended in Daytona on Sunday, I've had no desire to celebrate. So I don't even know what we're going to raise our drinks to tonight. But wherever you're at, grab whatever you have near you, and let's make a toast to look. This one's going to go out to three special people who I'm going to talk a lot more about in just a moment. But this episode is going out to the boss man, Mr. H, Rick Hendrick, Jeff Gordon, and Chase Elliott for the incredible roles that they played in making this weekend a phenomenal, everlasting, we will talk about forever in our family, that kind of a weekend for us. So cheers to those three guys, Rick, Chase, and Jeff. Yeah, pop it open. And we even got the Chase Elliott Daytona koozie tonight, so we're off and running. Now, it's not every weekend that I get to attend the race, but obviously I'm a Central Florida guy, so this is my home track. And so whenever NASCAR is in Daytona, your boy Kozy is in Daytona as well. I just don't ever miss it. And I'll be honest with you, I've had really great experiences in the past. That's kind of what keeps you coming back over and over again. And you always try to outdo the previous visit, right? Well, I don't know how we're going to outdo this past weekend. In fact, right now, I can confidently say I don't need to ever go back to Daytona or another NASCAR race. After what I just experienced, I am at an absolute mountain. I'm on a mountaintop for sure. Reached the highest of highs this past weekend. And I'll get into that. Again, if you've seen social media, you already know where I'm going with this story, but I want to start all the way back on Wednesday, which was the first day that cars hit the track anyway. 10 a.m. Cars were on the track practicing for the Cup Series qualifying, which was later that night. But I'm not talking racing yet. I'm going to talk about my week, which began on Wednesday with a friend visiting from out of town. He flew in Wednesday morning, and so we linked up when I got off of work on Wednesday, and he brought his little 4-year-old son, and it was actually his birthday. So I don't know how we outdo the fourth birthday, but we're going to try. Anyway, so my buddy Doug came from out of town. He hit me up a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and said, "Look, I want to come down to Daytona and check out the races." And I, you know, was completely honest with you. Daytona 500, very difficult to do with a young guy. In fact, we don't even take our kids on Sunday to the 500. Uh, Sold out crowd, just a big mess, chaotic. So I suggested, hey, maybe let's do some other races earlier in the week. And so the truck race, here we go already. The truck race was thrown around as an idea, but that was actually before I knew Tony Stewart and Cletus and Pastrana were all going to be in it. So before we knew that they were in the truck race, I was like, let's do the duels. Our family's been making a habit of going to the duels every year and bringing the kids. Last year, several of my buddies joined and brought their boys, and it's just become like a guys kind of thing. I mean, it's a great price. It's not a big crowd at all. And you get to see all the Cup guys race in one night. The sun's not shining on you, so you don't have to worry about that. You just bring a hoodie and a blanket and you're good to go. And those duels create really good racing. It's the first time that they're on track all together at once for the start of the season. It just makes for a fun night and a great way to get the speed weeks started off, really. And so that's what they were coming for. We went, obviously Wednesday they landed, got off of work. We went and had wings that night. Amazing start to the weekend. Can't beat wings with the guys. But then comes Thursday, I work again. My buddy goes over to the track. They get the fan zone ticket, so they're in the garages getting really cool pictures up next to the windows where the cars are being parked at. And by the time we get off work and make it over to Daytona, a couple other buddies joined and brought their boys. And so I think we had like 5 boys with us under 7 years old. It was just a good dad hang. And so we watched the duels Thursday night. Incredible time. Loads of fun. In fact, my buddy that came from out of town, he actually said, like, let's make this an annual thing. This was that's how great the night had gone. And so we're already making plans for next year, and we haven't even made it to the good part yet. The good part is Duel 2 when Chase Elliott wins. That's my favorite driver, and that's become my son's favorite driver as well. My 6-year-old loves him some Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney, and I might have had a little influence on that. I don't force anything on the kid because, look, the doggone kid is a Chiefs fan, and he's being raised in a Packers family. So I don't force anything on him. He makes his own decisions. We gave this kid, his middle name is Packer, and he still chooses to root for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. It's unbelievable. That's one of the areas I feel like I've failed. But I can confidently say I'm not forcing him, to root for certain teams or drivers, just heavily influencing him. And so he has become a pretty big Chase fan. And we saw that on Thursday night when Chase won his duel. It was the second duel, so it was the last race of the night. And I actually got video of my son just losing his mind, going berserk. It's the first time he'd seen Chase win a race in person. And he's been to a few races now. So just a moment that you'll never forget. I'll never forget the one and only time I ever saw Jeff Gordon win a race at Daytona in person. So we captured that video, thought it was the cutest moment. It brought him into tears. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's all over my podcast, social media. But the kid was just elated. So, it's late. We're getting back home after we make our Buc-ee's run. We get back home probably midnight. And so we get the kids in bed, and I'm still wired from the night we just had. Can't sleep. Had the next day off, so was not in a rush to go to bed. But finally around 1:15, 1:30, lights started turning off in the house and TV started turning off. It was time to get some shut-eye. And right before I went to bed, I had just remembered. I was like, let's go ahead and post that video from my podcast accounts and see what it does. I wasn't really expecting much. I just know it was a super cute video, and I didn't want to repost it like the next morning. I knew the win was sort of fresh still. So I went ahead and posted it 1:30 in the morning and went right to sleep. Woke up the next morning and had someone reach out to me on 3 different accounts. Not their on 3 of my different accounts. They sent me messages. So just asking for my contact info. This video had apparently reached Rick Hendrick's eyes that morning, and he was really impressed by the passion that he saw in my son when Chase won. So he just wanted to reach out, and that's all I knew when I read the message. So, of course, I've been scammed before, but this wasn't that fishy because I was messaged on 3 different accounts. I was just kind of like, if it is a scam, it's kind of worth the risk to see if, Mr. H is actually going to reach out. So I sent my phone number over and went ahead and took my morning shower. And when I got out of that shower, I mean, it wasn't even 10 minutes later, and my phone was ringing with a Charlotte, North Carolina area code. So I ran out the door answered that phone, and I spoke to Mr. H for a good 5 minutes. And all he said on the phone was he loved that we are a Hendrick Motorsports family. You could see in the video we have some retro Jeff Gordon gear on, and he loved that and wanted to show us his appreciation for our family and for the kid just going through an absolute roller coaster of emotions. So he invited us to the track later that day. And fortunately, circumstances aligned that I actually didn't have to get out of work. So we loaded up the car and headed over to Daytona. We weren't planning on going anywhere that day. We were just kind of hanging out. And we ended up at Daytona right around 2 o'clock-ish, grabbed some lunch, and met up with a representative for Hendrick Motorsports who then treated us to a shopping spree. And so we went to like 3 different merch haulers, and he said, whatever you want, get it. And he wasn't kidding. We were able to take really good care of the boys, and my wife got a lot of new clothes and hats and die casts and stuff. I did get this hat, so I had to rock this hat tonight, 24 hat, and I can actually say that this was on Mr. H's dime. And I've never been able to say that before, so pretty cool. Not a whole lot of people can. Some people can, but anyway, we had ourselves a good time with a shopping spree. And fortunately, I was able to bring my buddy and his 4-year-old with us to the track for this experience. So it wasn't just our family, it was a family friend as well who was in town staying with us. So pretty much like family when you're here with the Kozys. Anyway, after the shopping spree, we load up on the golf cart. We ride our way into the track to the driver RV lot, very exclusive access. We get out, we walk over to the Hendrick RV, and there's Jeff Gordon waiting on us. And the first words he said was, "We tracked you down." And I never thought I would hear Jeff Gordon say that. And so that's the moment that it really hit for me. It's like, this is real. They really want to show their appreciation for our fandom. And so we stood there for a few minutes, talked to Jeff. Chase came walking over very shortly after we got there and surprised my son. And Braden was absolutely starstruck when he noticed Chase Elliott was standing there. And so we just kind of chopped it up. We talked a little wheel with the guys and had us probably 10 to 15 minutes just hanging out with Chase Elliott and Jeff Gordon, and ended up getting a bunch of our die casts signed, a bunch of hats signed. They autographed pretty much anything we were holding with us. So when we were at the shopping spree, we were trying to pick out a die cast, and they had the new Napa paint scheme for 2026. And so since that's the car he won in the previous night, I was like, Braden, go ahead and get that one. Let's get it signed by Chase. And so that's really cool. That's going to be something that never gets opened out of the box. It's going to sit on a shelf for a very long time. So it's not a race win diecast, but it is his new scheme. The first time he, I guess he ran it in the Clash, but the second time it was in a race, he won with it. And so we have that one signed now. I did want to bring on a couple items if you're watching the video playback on YouTube. Couple items that I got signed. So first, I'll start with Jeff Gordon did sign both of the Hall of Fame tickets that I have from his Hall of Fame induction ceremony. So that was pretty neat. That goes back to 2019. I attended his Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and so it was really neat to bring these 2 tickets and have him sign it. He asked if I was there, and I was like, of course, I wouldn't have missed that for anything. And then maybe the coolest item that I got signed, me personally, I'm not showing off any of my kids' stuff. That's theirs. But, this is a helmet that was made last year. It's the only helmet that has Zip It Up Pod on it. And it came without those autographs earlier in the week. This one is Chase. This one is Jeff's autograph. They were able to sign that helmet, which was actually made by my buddy Doug, who was in town to visit. He has his own company that he makes mini helmets, and he actually specializes in helmet decals, and he suits up the helmets for much of Tennessee's high school football programs. And so you'll notice when you watch my podcast that this helmet usually sits right back here, and now it has 2 autographs on it out of, I probably want at least 5. Okay. I wanted all 4 Hendrick drivers on it. I love that I got Jeff's on it and would eventually like to have Mr. H's autograph on it if that ever were to work out one day. But we're off to a good start with that one. I love just their willingness to share time with us on Friday. They were getting ready to practice a little bit later that evening. So Rick felt pretty good about being able to link us up with both guys at the same time. The only 2 drivers I've ever rooted for, I was able to get, a few minutes with both of them at the same time. Really incredible stuff. And so if you go watch the vlog that I uploaded, you'll get to see much of that interaction. I shared quite a bit of it, kept a little bit to myself and for my family that wasn't put out publicly, but just really neat experience that, you always like see other people get to share those experiences sometimes just by luck, and that was us this past weekend though. We were those people, super blessed, very lucky to have that opportunity. You never think it's gonna be you, but this week it was us, and I'm not trying to make anyone jealous by sharing that with you. I want y'all to be able to see the interaction that we were able to have. That should give you hope. Eventually, one day, you might be able to share that same experience. Those are good people, class acts. That's why I love this organization. This race team has always been my favorite. Kendrick and Jeff Gordon won me over 25, 30 years ago. And now I'm still rooting them on. I grew up rooting for Jeff Gordon. Now my son is growing up rooting for Chase Elliott. And after Chase, there will be another one. There will be another driver that we'll root for, that will become our favorite. And by that time, my son is going to have a son of his own. And it's just NASCAR is a family sport. It's a generational sport. Chase's dad was in the sport. It's just tradition. NASCAR is family and family is tradition. And I'm so thankful and grateful to that entire team for making that happen. In fact, you don't even have to go to my social media to see our experience. You can actually go to Hendrick Motorsports social media because they shared it there as well. So really neat. That was just Thursday or no, Friday. So now we're only through Friday. We still have 2 days to go in the weekend. So Saturday, we didn't do a whole lot. We kind of dumped the kids off on the grandparents, and Saturday was kind of a homework day for me. If you've been following, I'm about to graduate from Full Sail as a sportscaster, like in 2.5 weeks. Cannot wait to get it behind me. But because this is my last month of classes, I'm loaded up with content that I'm having to create. And so this was a good opportunity since I was going to be in Daytona all weekend. This was a great opportunity for me to go shoot some content and get some footage to put on my demo reel, who I will eventually be sending to future employers. Hendrick Motorsports can expect something from me. And so that's pretty much all we did on Saturday is we got rid of the kids that morning, took off, went over to the track with my camera and just shot some stand-ups and just hung out at the track, ran into some friends that we hadn't seen in a little while. And so that was good to hang out with them for a little bit. And then after that, the O'Reilly race was starting, so sun was about to set. We took off. I got what I needed for school, and when you're beachside, you got to eat at one of those beach restaurants. So we went and sat at Boondocks that evening, and I'm not going to share the entire story of what happened at Boondocks, but my goodness, that was shaping up to be pretty incredible as well. We met some really cool people. Me and my wife just went into Boondocks. We sat at the bar, had a few drinks, had some more wings like I usually do. And really cool people sat down next to us at the bar and started chopping it up when they saw the gear that we were wearing. And I shared my experience with them, and we got to chatting it up. And they were agents for some drivers. And I'm not going to list who and tell who because that's not my business right now to share with all of you. But man, we were almost in for a treat. And they said that the driver changed his mind and was going to end up going somewhere else, I think, to eat that night. Anywho, that was Saturday. We get home late again, get up early Sunday morning, head right back to Daytona. It's race day, and it's Daytona 500 day. One of my favorite days of the year. It's my Super Bowl, and it's what I live for. And it's what I spend my money on. I am part of the sold out crowd every year, and I'm proud to be part of that sold out crowd. So the race was, I mean, the atmosphere is incredible. If you listen to my preview last week, I talked about the electricity in the air, the buzz that's in the atmosphere at the track. It's just unmatched. It's something that can't be explained either. You got to feel it. And so just to be in that again, truly, truly stupendous. And obviously, we watched that whole race, and I'll share my thoughts on that in just a second. But ended the weekend on not such a high note. So we experienced the highest of highs this week, but we also experienced the lowest of lows on Sunday evening. So that's what I'm going to talk about next. And I'll first start off with the Daytona 500. My biggest note, my biggest takeaway, I'm going to be one of those people that gets on the podcast this week and says, great job to NASCAR for moving the start time up by an hour, because when that race finished, look, I was sad. Probably I sat in my seat for, it was maybe 6 or 7 minutes, but it felt like it was 20 to 30 minutes. Felt like an eternity just sitting there. Couldn't even talk, couldn't blink, couldn't like show any emotion. I was distraught. And by the time we did get out, though, I mean, huge crowd leaving all at once, over 100 something thousand people leaving the same grandstands at once. It's chaotic getting out of there. So we park in the free lot, which means we got to shuttle back and forth to our car to the track. And we're out there standing in the bus line forever. And it started sprinkling, not enough to wet the track, but it was sprinkling. And by the time we got to the car and got our stuff unloaded, sitting in the car before we put it in drive, it was raining cats and dogs in Daytona, and that track would have got soaked. And moving it up by 1 hour was just perfect, because not only did we get the race in, but the majority of the fans were able to also get back to their vehicles just in time. So if they kept it at the same original start time of, like, coming on air at 2:30 and green flag at 3, I think they would have got the race in, but then people would have been walking out in a terrible downpour. I mean, it was a strong storm, driving home that night. It's an hour, well, in traffic that night, it was an hour and a half drive home through some very windy and rainy, gusty conditions. It was not fun. In fact, because I was so sad, I put my sad boy music on and just belted my little heart out for Chase that night. So anyway, great call by NASCAR. I wanted to come on here and use my platform to say that much. However, let's recall that final lap. I'm not going to go through the entire race. I will look individually at our drivers and their races in just a moment, but the race as a whole itself, another typical Daytona 500. You'll hear everyone's thoughts, from all the other podcasts. I just want to say, from a Hendrick Motorsports perspective, that last lap, incredible, the fact that William Byron had a chance. And he was running second, I believe, with like 2 to go. He was up there. And unfortunately, after they took the white flag, that's when the first accident happened. Carson Hocevar was spun from the lead, and that clipped William Byron just enough to slow him down. It didn't wreck William, but it did take away all his momentum that he had. We saw him fall through the pack, and we just knew from there it was not going to work out for William Byron to get a third Daytona 500 in a row, which would have been historical. I mean, that's really, with 2 to go, that's what I was watching the most. That's what I was rooting for the hardest. Felt like Chase was just a little too far back at the time. But after the little shuffle, once they took the white flag and we lose Byron, next thing I know, Chase is being pushed out to the lead by the 38 car of Zane Smith. And all of a sudden, I'm on another high again. And I'm thinking, okay, William can't three-peat, but Chase can get his first Daytona 500 ever. And that meant a little bit more to me. In the moment, I was losing my mind, just like my son was on Thursday. And so, we claim the lead on the outside, get a great push way out in front, too far out in front, actually, because coming out of turn 4, we're still the leaders. We just got to make it to the start-finish line. But a crazy run by Tyler Reddick was able to weave his way around us, and he was able to get the lead. Chase did not have any help from that moment forward. And of course, we in the race in Heartbreak. And man, that was a tough pill to swallow because coming out of turn 4, which is where our seats are, we are between turn 4 and pit road entry. And so when he passed by us, Chase had the lead, and I thought we had it locked up. I did not think that Reddick was going to be able to make the run that he had. And I thought if he made a run, Chase was at least going to block and be able to hold him off. And that was not to be. Unfortunately, we did get past. We got wrecked, and that was tough. That was hard to watch after what we had just been through earlier in the weekend. I mean, crazy roller coaster ride throughout the whole weekend, just going from the most incredible day where we experienced the highest of highs on Friday, hanging out with Chase himself. And then Sunday in the tri-oval, heartbreak. I was going through it, and it was the lowest of lows all of a sudden. And I hated it for him because thought he ran a really good race and had a great weekend, actually. I mean, to go out there and qualify in the top 10, then he wins his duel and never felt great and never felt like it was a special car. But man, he's really good at his craft, and super speedway is one that he's really good at. And so I hate to see that one get away from him. This one stung a lot more than the Daytona 500 that Michael McDowell won. And that one, was a little controversial. I have my thoughts and opinions about that. This one stings a lot more because we had that lead. No caution was thrown that entire last lap. And when he was out front, I was praying for caution. But of course, that would have set the NASCAR fans into a frenzy on the internet saying, oh, it's all about, Chase. And man, you can't say that though. I mean, they did not throw the caution. I think they made the right decision by not throwing a caution. I was just in the moment praying for it because I wanted him to get his ring and hoist up that trophy. But anywho, yeah, that's how things ended. And great weekend ended in heartbreak. That's really the only way I can put it. I'm pretty sure that that's going to be part of the episode title in one way or another. But yeah, it's going to take me a while to get over that one. But we will come back next year and we'll try again. We'll keep trying to win this race until it happens because feels like he's going to win one. However, I mean, we can say that about a lot of drivers that never won the 500. There's so many great legendary Hall of Fame drivers that are so good at Daytona and never get to say they won the 500. I just hope it's never him. Let's go ahead and look at our 5 drivers and how they did in their individual races this week. So I said 5 because Corey Day is a full-time O'Reilly driver. And so on Saturday, Corey Day started 6th. Really good qualifying effort. That shows the Hendrick speed, but he didn't score any stage points. He got collected in a big crash and ultimately went on to finish 20th. Really not a whole lot to take away there. I was glad that when he was running, that he was competitive. I didn't get to watch the whole thing because we were at dinner. I was watching it on my phone at dinner, sitting at the bar, but wasn't super immersed in the race and the circumstances. But when I was noticing where he was at, he looked to be competitive just as much as everybody else. Besides Austin Hill, who is going to dominate these races time and time again. The rest of the field has to figure out a way to beat him. But I liked what Corey Day did on Saturday. It ends how a lot of super speedway races end. So then on Sunday, our highest finisher was Chase Elliott. So let's look at his weekend. Again, he won duel number 2 on Thursday. So that means he started 4th in the 500. And then he went on to, he didn't score any stage points and then finished 4th. Look, that's great. Again, there's a part of me that would rather finish 40th if we're going to get wrecked. That's how much this race means. Okay. Winning the race, winning the Daytona 500 is a big enough accomplishment that you will sacrifice having to finish 40th if that's what it takes. So, when I realized he didn't win, I didn't really care where he finished. But looking back at the weekend and seeing him finish 4th in that race, remember, wins don't get you into the playoffs anymore. Points do. And so a 4th place finish was still a really good result for Chase Elliott, having been wrecked right at the line. So we will take it. It's unfortunate, but we'll take it. Next up, we got William Byron, who was involved in an accident in duel number 1 on Thursday night. So he ended up finishing 22nd in that duel, which means he's going to start in a backup car at the rear of the field. Started 30 on Sunday out of 41 cars. And he also did not score any stage points, and then he went on to finish 12th. But again, had himself in position there at the end. It really wasn't there all weekend long. It was not a dominant weekend for the 24 car. It was just one of those weekends that he hung around, and they could never eliminate him, and he still had a fighting chance with 2 to go. So proud of that 24 team, proud of William Byron for giving it a run like he did and making us believe that it could be done. Almost happened. But I'm starting to think that that record may never happen. 3 Daytona 500 wins in a row would be crazy talk. So that might have been the closest we ever saw. Next up, we got Kyle Larson. Now, Larson finished 3rd on Thursday in duel number 2, so that meant he was going to start 8th on Sunday, and he also did not score any stage points. And then he went on to finish 16th. He got collected in the 20-car pileup, and just one of those weekends for Larson. It's kind of the story of his super speedway career. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great either, and gets collected in an accident, not of his own doing. It's just how super speedway racing goes. So finishing 16th, not terrible. So this is going to be another guy that's in championship contention this year. And leaving Daytona 16th with a junked up race car, that's all right. And then last, we got Alex Bowman. So Bowman finished 10th in duel number 1 on Thursday. And so that gave him a first starting position on Sunday in the 500. Now, he is the only driver that we had score stage points, and that was in stage number 1 when he finished 9th, but he went on to finish 40th shortly after that. He was collected in the same wreck that Larson was in. In fact, I think they both hit each other in the wreck. And Larson was able to salvage somewhat of a day from there, but Bowman was not. Bowman was knocked out of the race, and so he went on to finish 40th out of 41 cars. Not a good start to his season. So before I go any further, I just remembered, I didn't put this in my notes. I'm glad I remembered this. I want to go back to my bold predictions. So one of my bold predictions for this season was that Hendrick Motorsports would sweep the Crown Jewel events, and that bold prediction's already been ripped out of ours for the taking. So we will not be able to accomplish that prediction, but it was a fun thought. I mean, we were right there, though. You got to give it to me in that. If we win the other 3, we're going to look back at Chase coming to the line, leading out of turn 4. Oh my gosh, that's going to be tough. We had that, and then, the Chase Elliott top 20 is still intact here after one race. This was probably the biggest hurdle to pass. He's great at Atlanta, and yes, he can get wrapped up in someone's mess in Atlanta too. But leaving Daytona with a top 20 finish in which you are involved in an accident, good start. Top 20 streak at 1. 1 out of, I think he made it to 23 or 24 races last year. And I'm not saying that I want that to be his goal to have a really long top 20 streak. We'd rather him get several wins, but nonetheless, it is consistency. And that's what Chase does, man. He protects his car. And even coming out of that last corner, when Reddick pulls up beside him, Chase could have aggressively moved and made a block, but he would have been junked up from there too. If you go listen to the Dale Jr. download, both Dale and TJ Majors were impressively, what's the word I'm looking for? They liked the way that Chase handled that at the end. He had no help, but he wasn't going to go out there and create a mess either. And so, the fan in me wanted him to throw that aggressive block. And, because that's your 500. But Chase is a smart racer. He's a class act, and he didn't go out there and wreck Tyler Reddick. We got beat fair and square there at the end. And so I hate admitting that, but it's the truth. So we'll move on, and we'll look at the current driver standings. Now, it's only one race into the season, so don't take a lot away from this, but a lot of stage points were awarded, and even the duels gave away stage points too. So right now, Chase Elliott is 3rd in the point standings, and he's 15 points back of the points leader, Tyler Reddick. Okay, Larson is 15th right now. He's minus 29 to the points leader. William Byron is 18th in the points, and he is minus 33 to the points leader. And then Alex Bowman, rough start. He is 36 in the points right now, minus 54 to the leader. So Alex Bowman actually only has 4 points to his name right now, and that's with being the only guy in our camp to score stage points. So let's go ahead and get into our Atlanta preview. I'll keep this rather brief. Is the best part about this episode was going to be talking about our weekend and having some 500 chat. Going into Atlanta, it looks much the same as our preview did last week going into Daytona. I mean, these tracks are similar in the way that they race. The only thing that's different is Atlanta is smaller, and it's also a home track for one of our guys. So last time we ran in Atlanta, Chase Elliott won. That was back in July, and this is his home track, so we know that he's going to be very racy, and he'll have a good chance to win, I think, on Sunday as long as he can survive some of the chaos that takes place throughout the race. But in order for us to preview this race, what I want to do, if you're new to the pod, I'm going to go ahead and individually look at each of our drivers and their statistical history at the track. So Atlanta for Kyle Larson. He has started 16 races here. Now, he has no wins in Atlanta, and he's got no poles in Atlanta. He does have 3 top 5s. He's got 5 top 10s. He's led 452 laps, which is the most out of our entire Hendrick organization, current drivers anyway. He definitely has not led more than Jimmy or Jeff here. Currently, he has led more laps than any of our drivers at Atlanta, but his average finish is 18.9. All right, Chase Elliott's next. He's got 14 starts here. That includes 2 wins, no poles. He has 3 top 5s, but 9 top 10s. Pretty impressive number. He's led 205 laps here, and his average finish is 11.4. And I believe I read today, NASCAR posted on social media that he has an average finish of 9 point something in the next gen era, which is the best among all active drivers. Atlanta has been a good track for Chase. Next, we got William Byron. He's got 13 starts in Atlanta, and that includes 2 wins, no poles, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 181 laps led, and his average finish is 19.2. So this is another good track as well for William Byron, being a multi-time winner here. And then last, we got Alex Bowman, who has 15 starts at Atlanta, and he doesn't have any wins here, no poles. He's got 4 top 5s and 5 top 10s. He's led 43 laps, and his average finish is 17th here. But I also read a stat that said Bowman, I believe, he's scored stage points in 4 out of the last 6 stages at Atlanta. So he's been known to run around the front here recently as well. And if he wants to get his season back on track, this might be a good place to do so. All right. So let's look at the betting lines for this upcoming race. Not recommending that you go gamble your money away, but this is another chance to possibly capitalize on some long shots. While also, if you want to take a good driver, they got some higher odds at this time of year and at this style of track. So these betting lines are according to the Hard Rock betting app, which is legal in Florida. Felt like I had to throw that in there. So the favorites to win this race, we got 3 guys with the same odds: Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and our Chase Elliott. They're all plus 1,000 to win this race, which means if you bet $10 on them and they win, you win 100. Okay. So next up, the rest of our Hendrick guys, we got Kyle Larson is plus 1,200. William Byron is plus 1,300. And then Alex Bowman is plus 3,000. And, we were just talking about his really good runs here as of recent. Plus 3,000, not too shabby. Might be something to think about. And then a few notables that I got written down for you. First of all, Tyler Reddick, coming off the Daytona 500 win. This week, he is plus 1,750 to win the race. I want to point out Connor Zilich's odds this week. Last week, he was plus 2,000 to win the Daytona 500, which I thought was crazy. It was his first 500 start, and he's a rookie. It's not easy, and we saw that. He did have a little bit of trouble, a little bit of fault in that accident that he was in, and that's just growing pains. He'll grow out of that. We've seen him be able to run really good on super speedways, but just coming up to another level and having to do it for 500 miles, really tough. So plus 2,000 going into that. And I said last week, I thought that that was a little odd. That was a little short. They should have been higher odds than that. Well, that is very reflective this week going to Atlanta, where his odds are now double, plus 4,000. So if you liked Zilich last week, maybe you should like him a little bit more this week, because if you put a $10 bet on him this week and he wins, that's 400 to your pocket. And last, I wanted to point out John Hunter Nemechek. He's plus 7,500 this week, and I leaned over to my wife during that race on Sunday, and I was like, you know who's impressing me? John Hunter Nemechek. He was he was running around the front of that for the first half of the race. He was running up front, seemed to be very much in control of his car and the race, and could do just about anything he wanted. I was impressed by Nemechek and Keselowski. I thought that those two green cars up towards the front were going to be really tough to beat later in the race. And so we have, I think I made Nemechek my long shot last week. And so we've seen him have some pretty good success on these super speedway tracks where you got to draft, and plus 7,500 sounds like a fun bet to make, or at least think about when you are placing your bets this weekend, or at least making your predictions. All right. So let's go ahead and make our predictions. And we will start with, we'll make 3 predictions each week. We make a Hendrick pick, a non-Hendrick pick, and a long shot. So my Hendrick pick for this week, I have to. I'm going to go Chase Elliott. The guy is too good at these tracks. We're seeing it time and time again. He's the most previous winner at Atlanta. Hometown race for him. Feel pretty good about what he's doing behind the wheel of the car. So I'm going to take Elliott plus 1,000. My non-Hendrick pick this week, I'm going to unfortunately have to go with Joey Logano. It's just undeniable how good he is at these tracks. And yes, he's aggressive. Yes, he is, he'll throw blocks. He'll give aggressive pushes, but the guy is really good at these drafting tracks. And yeah, he gets caught up in a lot of crap a lot of times, but that's because he's always on that wheel. And so, unfortunately, at plus 1,000, there's a reason he's the favorite to win this week. He'll probably be my non-Hendrick pick. And then the long shot I want to go with is going to be a little bit of a callback to Daytona. In fact, probably a callback to the duels. I saw Austin Dillon running that duel, and I thought he looked really racy. Thought he looked really sharp. The car looks sharp. The paint scheme is phenomenal. I don't know what paint scheme he's going to be racing in Atlanta. It would make sense for it to be Bass Pro, but I haven't even looked that far. I know that they've been released, but Austin Dillon is plus 5,000 to win Atlanta, and that feels very enticing as well. I mean, a $10 bet on him wins you 500. That's probably something I'm going to take right there. He's been able to get it done at the drafting tracks before, so it wouldn't shock anyone. Might as well put a couple bucks on him, right? O'Reilly, there were 2 notable odds that I want to put out. I'm not making a prediction. In fact, if I have to, I'm going to pick Austin Hill. Okay. When we were in Daytona on Saturday and we ran into those friends, I said, are y'all really about to go into the track and watch Austin Hill win another one of these races? In fact, I think I said dominate this race. That's exactly what he did. The field can't figure out how to beat him. And so now we're going to Atlanta, which I'm pretty sure he's a Georgia boy too. He's going to win this week again, and he's going to be 2 for 2. The O'Reilly series is only going to know one winner after their first 2 races, and it's going to be Austin Hill. There's a reason he is plus 250 to win this race. Incredible odds at a super speedway, by the way. But that's how much an advantage he has. And then Corey Day is plus 5,000 to win this week, which going into Daytona, I think he was like plus 3,000 maybe. So they're also increasing his odds a little bit. But again, I don't know if he's going to be able to win the race, but I saw enough from him on Saturday to say he can be competitive at these types of tracks, especially in HMS equipment. So plus 5,000 is something fun to think about and consider. And I don't expect him to win the race, but if he can hang around, we know anyone can win these races. They just got to beat Austin Hill. If they can eliminate him, anybody's got a chance. Hoping that our guy Corey has another good weekend. But let me just give you the weekend schedule and then we'll get out of here. 3 races this week at Atlanta or at Echo Park Speedway. Who's calling it that? Ain't nobody calling it that. The trucks will race Saturday afternoon at 1:30. That will be on FS1. And then right after at 5 o'clock on the CW, you will see the O'Reilly race. And then come back Sunday for the Cup race at 3 o'clock on Fox. Now, I know that weather is expected to be in and around the area. I'm just not sure what times and what could potentially be affected. So if you're going to the race, make the most of it, enjoy it. The weather is going to do what it does. Mother Nature always has had something against NASCAR. And so just go make the most of it. I know a few buddies from the Checker Chat that will be there. That's their track. So I am planning on making it to the summer Atlanta race. I wish I could go to this one, and I probably would be if I wasn't just in Daytona this past weekend. But I'm going to have to reload that wallet for my NASCAR money and join them in July. But if you're in and around the area, say what up to the guys at the Checker Chat. Go listen to their podcast. I will forever be a friend and a fan of theirs, and I will plug them any chance I get. And so I know that they're looking forward to the weekend ahead. And hopefully it works out for one of our drivers. So whatever you do, though, stay safe. Mother Nature can be a beast sometimes. So like I said, make the most of it. We'll come back next week. We'll talk about Atlanta, how that went down, and then we'll do another race preview leading into the following weekend. I hope we got someone that's going to go out there and win a race for us. Okay, let's go ahead and get it started now. Remember, if we win a race, I got a surprise on the next episode. So I want to get that out there to you as soon as possible. So anyway, y'all have a good weekend. I'll talk to you next time.